Welcome back from the international break. Now it is time to talk about West Brom and Manchester United because the proper football is back. Adam, Paul and Dave, we're going to start with this. Are you ready? Timothy Fosu-Mensah. Could it happen? Is it possible that Mourinho will be forced to play Timothy Fosu-Mensah because of injuries and suspensions and absentees from our midfield in this game? And if so, brilliant, what do you think? And if not, in a parallel universe, should he be playing? How would he be getting on? Paul, I'd like your answer first. And just before you start, I'd like to encourage those watching at home to use their fingers to get in the comments and give us answers, because I've got this too, so I can see what you write. Stir the debate and we'll talk about it. Paul, go first.
I will go first, thank you. I don't think he'll play against West Brom. I think Mourinho will go through all kinds of contortions and backflips to avoid picking Fosu-Mensah in the side. It's a bit of a shame what's happened. This is the inevitable consequence of Mourinho, really, which is ultimately, if given the choice between an experienced player and an inexperienced player with a ton of talent, the chances are Mourinho's natural inclination is to opt for the experienced player. He's kind of gone out of his comfort zone to a certain extent with Rashford this season, but that's almost like his one concession to youth. I mean, we've seen Fosu-Mensah has hardly got any game time at all, even in the games when you could reasonably have squeezed him in. He'd have had 20 appearances at least under Van Gaal this season, although we'd all have fallen asleep by now.
I think he's had 4 minutes. That might be wrong, but it's something like that all season. It's basically nothing. Adam, what do you think?
He's had more than 4 minutes, unless that's in the league.
He's had just 4 minutes in the Premier League.
I remember watching him at Northampton and he cracked the crossbar and...
He played quite badly in that game, apart from cracking the crossbar, though. He looked like he was really eager to prove himself, which is one of the big problems when you have young players hardly getting any game time. When you do give them game time, getting them to do what they do is really challenging.
I think, though, with Timothy Fosu-Mensah, there's I've been concerned by his lack of appearances, because I think him and Andreas Pereira, obviously Pereira's out on loan, him and Pereira, apart from the ones that are already getting first team minutes, are the best young players at the club. And I think it'd be a shame if they didn't get the game time and the opportunities to prove themselves. But having read the quotes that are coming out from Timothy Fosu-Mensah, seeing him in training, he's all smiles, laughs and jokes. And from what he's coming out and saying, it seems like he has been promised or told that he does have a future here and that Jose Mourinho wants to use him in the future. It may be a case that Jose this season feels that he can't risk him, he can't play him, the results are too important maybe, or he wants to get a foundation that is better built to bring younger players in. So there could be a lot of reasons why he hasn't played. Jose maybe wants him to just focus in training for this season and then use him next season. You don't know. But if that isn't the case, then I would be concerned, because a talent like Timothy Fosu-Mensah needs to be played. And if Jose doesn't want to play him next season, then he needs to leave on loan or leave, because he can't be wasted here. He's such a great talent. It'd be disappointed though if it did come to that.
Okay, Dave, weigh in.
I think Fosu-Mensah, what he could do against West Bromwich Albion in sort of the game situation. One, he'd give us another aerial asset in set pieces. That's where West Brom have scored a lot of their goals this season. In terms of dealing with covering the fullbacks going forward, or covering the space that maybe Juan Mata and Anthony Martial are going to vacate on the break, could be good getting over to the flanks. He won 73% of his tackles last season in the Premier League, so he can win his tackles. But it is that question: does Mourinho trust him quite yet? 19 years old, still a young lad. I'd just give him a bit of time. He is around the first team squad. He's playing for the under 23s and so forth, but it'd be nice to see him potentially as an option as a third centre back. We saw against Middlesbrough how Mourinho did switch to a 3 at the back system in that second half and just sat back and counter attacked. Maybe bringing Timothy off the bench and putting him as a centre back next to Rojo and Eric Bailly could be quite a nice thing to do for Mourinho, and then allow United to break. We saw how that worked out so well with Jess Lingard orchestrating everything against Middlesbrough.
Well, it looks like the guys watching are fairly patient and not that concerned about his lack of games. Kevin says Fosu-Mensah is one for the future. And Ukash says, here, try the youngsters in pre-season and see how it works. So for the most part, Steve says, Adam McCauley, you're the love of my life. So Adam, that's a little something for you. It seems like people aren't that
worried. Is that person again in the comments?
Yeah, and Isaac says, I think Mourinho will play Timbo confidently in Premier League matches if we did win the Europa League Cup. Hopefully. So I guess he's thinking if maybe there was less pressure on getting into the top 4, we'd have more opportunity to play less tested players. I guess that's a thought process
But
there.
if we're in the Champions League, then next season, which is the hope, then surely that we're going to be in a position where we want to challenge for the league title.
Yeah.
And there's more pressure.
Yeah.
But I do get it in the sense that, Jose Mourinho will have the team playing more the way he wants it to be played. Timothy Fosu would have seen more in training. You don't know what position he wants him to play. Does he want to play him centrally? Does he want him to replace, be the long-term replacement for Valencia? Like, you don't know what he sees for him, but he is so much of a Jose Mourinho type player. Like, before Jose came, I thought he loved Timothy Fosu to the way he plays and stuff. So there's still hope yet.
In those 4 minutes that he played in the league, he did play in central midfield as well, which was kind of interesting.
And he was amazing.
Yeah, the thing that Dave said that he would work well in a back 3 and that would be a nice option for Mourinho, I think is incredibly apt. But the thing about I would argue quite strongly that the Fosu-Mensah situation is one of the areas where Mourinho's made one of his bigger mistakes this season, because I think Mourinho's having a very decent first season, and I think on balance he's doing a lot more right than he's doing wrong. But I think he has made a few fairly substantial mistakes, and not doing anything with Fosu-Mensah is definitely one of them. And I'm not talking about a mistake that, that's going to be a disaster and he's going to leave in the summer and it's the end of the world. I just mean if you kind of chalk up all the pros and cons, I would have to say there's been numerous opportunities when Fosu-Mensah could have done a job and he's never gone for it, or almost never gone for it.
Well, I think Anash agrees with you, who says, pretty sure he'll start Young at right back rather than Timothy Fosu-Mensah, even if he's a better choice. That's what he does every time. Do you think right back is an opportunity that Timothy Fosu could have had some minutes this season where he's missed out, Dave?
I think Valencia's a better option, though. We've seen what he's done this year. He's got the most assists as a right full-back in the Premier League. What he's doing going forward, he gives that, he pretty much runs the whole right-hand side for Manchester United.
Yeah, I think it's more, though, when Valencia's been absent, when Valencia's been injured and things. No one's suggesting drop Valencia.
It's a difficult one. It's kind of like, go back to that Northampton game. Fosu-Mensah did well going forward, but defensively he was a little bit caught out. Positionally was a bit poor. Same, he played in the Europa League. Can't remember who it was against, but again, he was quite poor. Maybe Feyenoord away, where he didn't quite get into the game. And I think maybe Mourinho saw that game at right-back. He's not a right back for me, maybe a central midfielder. He's tried him there as well and not given him enough minutes. So I think it is about getting time. Maybe a low move in the Premier League would be the right thing for Timothy in the short term, and then in the long term coming into United. So I don't think that's a bad option. 19 years old is
we
so
should have
young.
loaned him.
We
should have loaned him this season.
It's great to say. I know I said he should go out on loan if he doesn't play, and I still stand by that. He should go out on loan if he doesn't play. But like Paul says, it's a mistake because he's good enough to play. This boy is good enough. Like, when we have been starting some games, and I mean I've had the same issue with Zlatan starting every game, like Zoya at home and that game against Northampton, and crazy amount of games where we've thought change the team and we just haven't. And in the long run, we look now, and he's moaning about fixture congestion and this, that, and the other. And maybe if we had other players like Timothy Fosu-Mensah who were at a level where they could come in, or where he was confident to select them for a Premier League game, and it's not a risk because it's their first game and they've only played 4 minutes in the league all season, then we would have been in a better position as a team as well.
I think the other problem we've got, though, is we've got Morgan Schneidlin and Bastian Schweinsteiger both playing central midfield and both just leaving in January. So it's like that opportunity, pecking order-wise, he's massively moved up since those two have left the club. But before that, he was way down that list in central midfield. So maybe it is an opportunity now that he has let those two guys go in January, that now it's time for Timothy to step up and play central midfield and get some minutes under his belt before the end of the season, have a nice break off, and then come back 20 years old, Premier League 2017-18, and really sort of, start going rocking in midfield, destroying people.
Okay,
I'm a bit worried.
Oh, go on, Paul.
I'm just a bit worried. Like, it's good news for Fosu-Mensah that Bastian Schweinsteiger's gone in terms of his place in the pecking order. But to be honest, I'm a bit worried about him without Bastian. I'm a bit worried about how he's going to handle the emotion of that departure, because clearly they mean a lot to each other, those two. So I'm worried about him.
Well, we're going to move on to other Manchester United players currently. Now, in the less than a year that he's had the job, Jose Mourinho has managed to ship out 5 of the 10 signings Van Gaal made but it's two Fergie signings that are getting all the stick right now. What we've noticed online is there is so much hate for Phil Jones and Chris Smalling. People have really turned on them. And I don't know if other people have noticed that. I don't know if that's something you feel. If you do, explain it to us in the comments. Adam, do you think this is justified?
Yeah.
Do you think we just need, as fans, do you think we need a scapegoat? And it used to be Fellaini, but then Fellaini got booed, and I think a lot of people disliked him, that then felt a sense of pity, and then now they support Fellaini, and now the same set, everybody is now looking for someone else to blame, and looking at Jones and Smalling and saying, you're not good enough.
My opinion of Fellaini has never changed.
Sure.
It's never changed.
But the way you express yourself about him could have.
In terms of Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, what I would say is, over the last couple of months, my opinion of Chris Smalling has changed. I am scared, just like he looks physically. Like, he looks so scared recently whenever anything goes on near him in the box, and that shits me up. Like with Phil Jones, yeah, he can make mistakes, but I never think he's scared of defending or he's scared of playing or anything like that. But with Chris Smalling, for me, it just looks like he's panicking all the time. He doesn't know what to do. There was one, I forgot which goal it was, where was it Middlesbrough's goal where he failed to clear the ball. He should have went with one foot, and then he went with the other foot. The ball's bouncing around, and I think it was Gestetti who scored. And it's like, you are an experienced Premier League defender. How can you not sort your feet out yet? Why are you always panicking? Like, there's so many question marks over Chris Smalling now, and it surprises me because over the last 2 or 3 years, he has come on fantastically well. Now, Phil Jones still worries me. Marcus Rojo still worries me. But I never feel like they are scared to defend. And I feel that with Chris Smalling, and that's why my opinion to Chris Smalling has changed over the last couple of, it's not hatred or anything like that. I just don't feel as comfortable with him in the back. Now, of course, the tactics have changed, and Louis van Gaal's tactics probably suited him a little bit more, but I still don't think that's an excuse. And yeah, we need another centre back, I think, at the moment. And I think one of Smalling and Jones will probably, well, they probably won't, but I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them leave in the summer. Because somehow, like, every summer comes around and you think, shit is gone now. And then they survive and they have a revival, and then we come back into this kind of loop. But I don't know. He doesn't fill me with confidence at the moment.
No. Paul, Adam touched on it just then. Do you think this is a wake-up call, perhaps, to the realities of Chris Smalling's potential as a footballer? Because under Van Gaal, he wasn't required to do that much serious, last-gasp, counter-attacking defensive play because United had all the ball and didn't do a lot with it, and he just had to pass 1-2s with Michael Carrick.
And I think that is, I mean, deliberately, obviously, but that is a big oversimplification of Smalling's excellent form between returning from suspension after getting sent off against City at the end of 2014 and the injury he got at the very beginning of 2016. Calendar year 2015 was a proper purple patch for Smalling, and it really looked like this would be the start of him becoming the player we all kind of hoped he should be. But he's 27 now, and like Adam says, he looks terrified every time the ball comes near him. And I don't think it was as simple as the system offering him enough protection to look good under Van Gaal, because I think if you break down the games and look at his individual defensive play, he was really on it in that year, and he looked really confident. And that's the big difference. I think some work with a good sports psychologist would go an awful long way in Smalling becoming the player that he potentially could have become. But I think if he doesn't do that, I wouldn't hesitate to sell him if we can get any kind of upgrade. I think the thing about Smalling and Jones as a pair of scapegoats is actually they should be treated very separately, because they're very different cases. This is who Chris Smalling is. We're not really going to see massive changes in one direction or another for Smalling. So it's whether we want to tolerate the kind of phases of panic in order to kind of benefit from the stuff he does well technically. Phil Jones, I think if you look at his development, it was obviously hugely stalled by injury, and it might be like he's injured again now, and it might be that he never has the run of games he needs to. But whenever he does have a run of games, he starts to look good. Like, Phil Jones is actually a good defender, And if it wasn't for the injuries, we'd be having a very different conversation about where Jones stands in the pecking order. I think one of the big problems is you can't put the two of them together because the panic in Smalling spreads around him. One of the reasons that Jones and Rocco looked so good together is Rocco's just transmitting supernatural calm to Phil Jones all game. Like, he's just standing there going, if anything, I'm too chilled, to be honest. and Phil Jones is like, okay, well, I can be calm and play my game. I can be the one who can afford to have a momentary lapse of confidence and go like sliding on my head first at the ball or something like that, and Rocco will be calm behind me. But when you pair Jones and Smalling, you have a headless chicken situation.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
I think it's a real difficult one. I think both defenders have done really well in periods this season. They've done really well in the last few seasons. I kind of agree tactically. Both are very different defenders. Phil Jones does suit playing backs against the wall, defending a bit deeper and you know with your teammates around you, clearing the ball centrally. I think Phil Jones does well there. Where Phil Jones doesn't do very well is when he's isolated 1v1 in that wide area behind the right fullback. He makes rash decisions. Think of the recent penalty he conceded. He just needs to stay on his feet. He just needs to have that one moment of that calmness. And I feel with Phil Jones, there is a really good defender in there that I thought he did really well against Eden Hazard, against Chelsea. Eden Hazard only did well when he drifted to the other side of the pitch, to the right-hand side. Then he picked up the ball, then he got going. Whenever Phil Jones was on him, he consistently got at his heels. He was snapping at him. It was similar to the job that he did on Gareth Bale all those years ago. The problem is with the injuries. You know, think of Rio Ferdinand at around 22 years old. He'd made over 230 odd appearances in the Premier League. Phil Jones at 25 has only made 200. So it's that problem that it's the game time, it's the injuries. But there is a good defender in there. I would say he does lack that ability to be cold. The best defenders in the world are cold. The likes of Maldini, the likes of Nesta, the list of Italian defenders goes on and on and on. But they were so cold in the penalty area. They make you make the mistake. They wouldn't make the mistake. They just wait. And that's what Phil Jones doesn't have in the penalty area that he needs to develop. But that can be developed. That's a technical issue that can be coached out. In terms of Smalling, I don't know what's happened. Under Louis van Gaal, like Paul was saying, was fantastic 1v1, would always win his, whether it was in the air, whether it was on the ground, would always come out with the ball. And unfortunately, he looks like a different defender under Mourinho that sits a bit deeper. And unfortunately, the errors have sort of stacked up in the Premier League this season. Only Simon Francis and John Stones have made more defensive errors leading to goals in the Premier League than Chris Smalling. So it is an issue now. It is becoming an issue that's costing United points and costing United games. So it's a real difficult one, but United need to go into the market and sign a partner for Eric Bailly if they want to push for the title next season. It's simple as that.
The thing about Smalling under Van Gaal is that I think a lot of people have done this. They've gone like, Smalling was good under Van Gaal and has been bad under Mourinho. But the truth is he was selected. He was good for a specific period of time under Van Gaal. In the last 3 months of Van Gaal's reign, Smalling was all over the place. So it started pre-Mourinho. It's not a management coaching thing. It's something in the player himself. Anyway, sorry.
So do we all think Phil Jones has been rescued? I know he's injured at the moment, so it's hard to say. But do you think Jose?
I think he can be. I think he can. I think he's the one that's.
Because I kind of feel it.
I think he's the guy that's got the natural defensive instincts that you can't teach in a way. He's got the raw attributes to be a really good. It's just the injuries. That's it for me. Just the injuries and the consistency.
The thing about Phil Jones is what you wouldn't give to see Jones alongside Rio Ferdinand. Because Rio Ferdinand is the best leader of a defence I've ever seen in terms of not leader but manager of a defence I've ever seen, and Jones has just not had that, and he really needs it because he can't be it himself. And Smalling definitely can't do it. Rocco's way better at it than Smalling.
I think Adam almost just perfectly summed up the entire career of Phil Jones when he said, "So we all think he can be saved." I know he's injured at the moment, but that is Phil Jones right there. Print that out, put it on a t-shirt.
Always believe in Phil Jones.
Right, so online we have got John says, Smalling's not just a bad belly, he's got the runs real bad.
Phil Jones.
Ukarash says, yes, Jones needs to stay over Smalling. And then Michael Keane is better than Smalling and has been for a while. Jones should play in front of the other defenders, so somewhere between the midfield, I guess. John says, no, don't rate toilet Smalling. Looks like people aren't that keen on Smalling.
I think the interesting one with Michael Keane as well, he's played in the system that, pushes his talents forward. Burnley sits so deep, they pack the midfield, they don't give their opponents much chances, and it is clearances, it is interceptions. It is like Curtis Davis, whose stats are massively inflated because he did play in a defensive Hull City side that has changed under Marco Silva. I think Will Keane is a top defender, but is he as good as Smalling, Jones? I'd probably say he's on the same level.
Okay, now
I find that a bit funny about Michael Keane, because Michael Keane is doing fantastically well now because of the games he has had at Burnley. If he was at United, like he played in that Milton Keynes game, no one seems to remember that. Like, if he was at United, would he have got in ahead of Smalling, Jones, even like Paddy McNair, Blackett at the time? I know it sounds crazy to say that now because of where Michael Keane is, but at that time he wouldn't have. So I think these people kind of looking back and saying, "Oh, why did we let him go?" Of course, it's disappointing when he's doing well, but let's be real, he's doing well for Burnley.
But Samsung reckons Jones sucks.
That's a similar thing to the Paul Pogba thing. Paul Pogba doesn't get to the player if he doesn't go to Juventus. Kevin De Bruyne doesn't become the same player if he doesn't go to Wolfsburg. Lukaku doesn't become the same player if he doesn't go to Everton. It's that thing. It's lovely to look back on things, but if players don't get minutes and don't get game time, they aren't going to get developed. And unfortunately, going back to our first thing, that could be a bad thing for Timothy Fosu-Mensah.
The thing about that though is, nothing will ever make it right that Van Gaal went McNair and Blackett instead of Michael Keane. That was a terrible decision because he gave plenty of playing time to players with a much lower ceiling and, frankly, who weren't a lot readier than he was then. So I just think that was straight up Van Gaal eccentricity as much as anything else.
He was eccentric. The other side to that question is, of course, why do we, as fans, look to find and need scapegoats within our own teams? Is there a psychological element of this, or is there more at play in terms of the ability of the players?
I think so, but I don't think with everybody. I don't think you can say that about everybody. I think that would be unfair. But
there was a point that it was Ibrahimovic. No, we were looking at him. Like, no, I think was it November? And everyone was just saying, this guy's rubbish. There's always someone.
No, people overreact, I think. Because, we get it a lot. I think when someone points out, okay, like, I remember pointing out that I had a bad game one game. And then the next game, he played well and he scored. And after the game, I said he played well and he scored. And people were like, oh, you're changing your tune. And it's like, no, I'm just saying what I saw.
Just commenting on his performance.
Yeah, sounds like you're a hypocrite, Adam. To be honest, that's what it sounds like. You'll say anything to get those retweets. All you care about is the numbers, mate.
I think over the years, sections of support have used players as scapegoats. I remember Johnny Evans used to get it. He used to really disappoint me because Johnny Evans, for me, is a super talented defender. Darren Fletcher used to get it. Kieran Richardson used to get it, but I think he used to get it for other reasons.
Danny Welbeck.
Did Danny Welbeck get it?
I think he did.
Berbatov used to get it because people used to like Tevez, and it was like, you don't have to like one or the other. You can like both.
No, it's like Ronaldo and Messi. Pick a side.
No, enjoy the other.
There's a difference between analysis and scapegoating, and people are really bad at drawing the line between the two. Like, there's definitely a tendency in football fan communities towards scapegoating, and a lot of people say it's online fans and not match-going fans. I think that's absolutely not true. Very often at Old Trafford, feelings about a particular player will spread, and they'll get really embedded in the culture of the match-going support. But there is a difference between analysis and scapegoating. Like, I get accused frequently of having agendas against particular players, and
you do, Paul.
Yeah, but apart from Chris Smalling, I haven't got any. I kid. Not even him. It's just that what happens is you get analysis and then that spreads out into scapegoating. You get people going, well, Jesse Lingard really needs to work on his end product, and that gets kind of amplified by the community into Jesse Lingard's terrible and needs to be sold and is nowhere near good enough for Man United. And the two things are completely different. There needs to be a way of accepting criticism and analysis as part of the fun of being a fan, but then you don't just turn into a kind of raging hate monster against players in your own team.
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those things with Jess Lingard, especially where he's part of his game is good in certain situations. He was good against Middlesbrough attacking that central space. He was good against West Brom attacking the space in behind. Arguably, he should start against West Brom, but it is the media, it is to sell clicks, it is to sell newspapers and whatever. And unfortunately, that is what we live in.
Dave, you said the word. Maybe he should start against West Brom, and I'm going to use that to seamlessly link to the next part of this show. See how that was done there? Right, now we're going to talk about your starting lineups for the West Brom game. If you're watching, get your starting lineups in the comments section and we'll have a look at them in a moment. But before that, I will tell you that Herrera and Zlatan are suspended. Jones, Smalling, Pogba are injured. Fellaini and Rooney are doubtful. Also, Rojo only got back from South America on Thursday, so maybe won't be ready. So, Adam McCullough, please tell us your starting 11 for Manchester United versus West Bromwich Albion.
I don't know what I'm thinking. Like, I've already set my team into Chris, and he's gonna put it up at the screen now. So if I change it, he's gonna have a heart attack. My team is David De Gea in goal, Valencia. Then I've gone with Bailey and Rojo, and Luke Shaw at left back. More in hope than expectation. I expect Daily Blind will start.
Well, you don't want to mess this up, Adam, because you've got 67 points in the.
Yeah, I'm going top of the league this weekend.
John Shin has 72.
Is John here?
No.
Where are you?
Five, right? I'm top of the league. Don't worry, I'm top. John's not here. If John was here, I wouldn't have picked Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw plays. Then
Luke Shaw, and then you bottled it.
Carrick, Pogba, Mickey, Mata, Marshall, Rashford.
Well, that was quick, wasn't it? Carrick, Pogba, Mickey, Mata, Marshall, Rashford. It was like a nursery rhyme.
A really happy one.
Pogba, Mickey, Mata, Marshall, Rashford. I like it. Okay, Dave.
David De Gea in goal, same back for Valencia, Bay, Rojo and Luke Shaw. Want to see him back there. Defensively, he's looked really good in the last few weeks when he's played. Into midfield, I think Fellaini will play. I think his height is going to be so crucial against West Brom in a defensive sense. Yep. Carrick, Fellaini in central midfield, and then Mata, Mickey and Martial and Rashford through middle, the same as Adam. But I quite like, after now, just thinking about it, I'd like Jess Lingard to play ahead of Martial. I'd probably go for a three of Mkhitaryan in the middle, Lingard on the left, Mata on the right. I quite like that, the fluidity between that three. Behind, of course, Marcus Rashford, whose pace is going to be an asset against West Brom, considering how big their defenders are and so forth. Against England, fantastic. He only played 30 minutes, but created more chances and completed more dribbles than any other player on the pitch. What a talent.
Nice stats, thanks Dave. Paul, your team.
I've gone with a very specific approach here, which is it's not about the team that I would pick in a million years. It's just about maximising my chance of getting points out of this game.
Right, so you're just going for players that you think will play to get points regardless of how this works out?
Not even players I think will play, but as many players as possible who could be picked in multiple positions in order to cover my back to the maximum possible opportunity. So, given the crisis, Dave in goal, obviously. Yeah. Darmian, I don't think Darmian's going to play, but there's a chance either at right back or left back.
Okay.
Bailly, Rocco, I don't know if he's going to play at centre-back, but he's either going to play at centre-back at left-back. Blint, I feel like there's even an outside chance he might end up playing in midfield, given what's going on in our side, so he's my choice at left-back. Valencia, in a midfield three, this ain't going to be the midfield three, but I think Antonio Valencia will play. Carrick, Mata. Imagine if that was actually the midfield three. It's not going to be.
Remember when Valencia played right of a diamond and he was amazing?
Yeah, I mean, under Van Gaal, it made complete sense to play Valencia as part of a midfield three, because he would just get the ball and then play a safe pass inside. It's what he does. He loves it. And then I don't know if Chris got my change in time, but I originally picked Lingard, Rashford, Martial.
He got the change.
He did. Okay, great. So Mkhitaryan, Rashford, Martial. As the front three in my brilliant 4-3-3.
What an especially exciting team.
Yeah.
That's as crazy as the time Dave picked Fletcher in his all-time United.
Whoa. Adam, we don't want to get into this again, mate. Darren Fletcher, football genius. You know it as much as I do.
Yeah.
Adam, now is not the time to suggest Darren Fletcher isn't capable of bullying us and winning the game for West Brom, because he might just do that. I think I speak for everybody everywhere on earth when I say, Paul, I hope your team is spot on. Would be amazing. Alpha says, is this guy all right? And I can only assume he's talking to you, Paul.
Just want to
So-
be very clear, that's not the team I would pick.
Well, but you did pick it.
No, but only
That's-
for points. Listen, if this game was done on a points per appearance basis, that's not the team I would have picked, but I've got to maximise every opportunity.
I see. Well, I like it. Goose says you're mad.
Thank you.
Good luck with that. Someone else says you're all right.
Great.
Valencia, same midfield. Okay, right. Let's
I love
talk
that
about
guy that
West Brom.
on the internet.
I know. We're going to talk about West Brom now, and I'm going to let Dave go first and tell us all about Darren Fletcher and his teammates.
Well, I don't think it's about Darren Fletcher, Sam. In fact, it's about Tony P's Barmy Army, who in fact is bringing set pieces back. West Brom have scored 39 goals in the Premier League this season. In fact, 49% have come from set pieces. That's 19 goals, which is absolutely incredible, 14 of which are from corners. So that is a big thing for Manchester United, to not concede corners or wide free kicks. Seems quite simple, but if the ball's near the byline or near United's goal, just get it rid, clear it out. Simple as that. In terms of the delivery, it's come from Matt Phillips and Nessa Chadley. Matt Phillips is out injured for the game, which is a good thing because his delivery's been very good this year. So it will be Chadley, but it is just about avoiding Gareth McCauley, Dawson, who did a number on Arsenal last week, coming up from to get those set pieces. In terms of goals from centre backs in Europe's top 5 leagues, only Sergio Ramos has scored more goals than Gareth McCauley this season. That is incredible for a 36-year-old.
Nice, interesting. Adam.
Interesting stat that Dave never threw in. They have the most goals scored by defenders.
Hey,
12.
Nice.
Well done, buddy.
That's my work here is done.
See you later.
That Johnny Evans should have got the armband a couple of years ago at Old Trafford, if you remember me saying. And I still think he'd do a job for us right now, to be honest. If they score from corners and most of their goals come from defenders, surely that means Johnny Evans is going to score this weekend, right?
Or don't give them any corners.
We ain't going to do that. That makes too much sense. You know what we're going to do, right? Bailey's just going to start doing a Chris Smalling and panicking like he does sometimes as well. And start slicing everything out for corners. I'm not looking forward to this game, guys.
Okay. Paul, back to West Brom.
I just need to point out that I slightly unprofessionally just checked my email because I had an email I'm waiting for a work email, so I had to check it.
That's fine.
And
Sounds professional, in fact.
It said Full-Time Devils is streaming live on YouTube. That was what the email was about. So there you go. Anyway, West Brom, a lot of people are talking them up, understandably, because they just beat Arsenal 3-1. Mm-hmm. But they've also had some terrible results, particularly on the road. They lost 3-0 to Everton. They got battered 4-0 by Tottenham in January. They're eminently beatable. We were excellent against. I thought it was one of the better performances during our really good run at Christmas time, and an absolutely amazing away end at that game. And that was the game that the players were throwing their shirts into the crowd afterwards. So that a bit of that atmosphere would be good. I think the set pieces thing is obviously huge because West Brom are really good at them. We're really bad at them. It's a whole thing. That's not a good match, and actually not giving them away is going to be crucial. But our attackers should have too much for their defenders, and this is. Ibrahimovic was superb against West Brom. That's certainly been one of his better all-round performances for us this season. But actually, him not being there doesn't feel like the end of the world at the moment because it's going to be nice to have an incredibly mobile, speedy front line to get in behind their pretty slow, ponderous back line. We were talking about whether Michael Keane would be better choice than Smalling. On this season's evidence, Evans most certainly would be because he's having one of the seasons of his life at West Brom.
Okay.
An absolute don is Johnny Evans. The Northern Irish Nesta.
Peter says, even without the big guns, we should win this. And that's basically it. Everybody seems pretty confident.
I remember when we played
Fellaini would be crucial, according to John Gary, because West Brom are physical. Everyone
Does
seems
he do
quite
that?
happy.
Does Fellaini actually do that well in physical battles? He worries me slightly when the games get physical. You kind of think in theory, Fellaini would be good physical battle, but if he plays in the heart of midfield, he gives away so many cheap fouls.
Yeah,
so that's kind of a bit of a worry. And in fact, as well as the set pieces thing, the midfield battle is going to be crucial in this because we need to get the ball to our fancy front players, and without Pogba, that's going to be challenging. Or Herrera.
Okay, right, let's wrap this up. Adam, what do you think the score will be?
I don't think it's going to be easy. I think we will have many opportunities to score. Because I remember when obviously they're going to set up differently at Old Trafford, but we had so much space in behind them at the Hawthorns that I think if they do that this time, Rashford will catch them out. He looked bright when he came on for England. I know that was only against Lithuania, but he did look bright when he came on. And he's been doing well up top. He did everything but score a goal against Middlesbrough. And I think he'll score at Old Trafford. I'm going 2-1.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 to us. A slightly flattering 3-1 when the score's better than the performance.
Dave.
I kind of agree with FIFA 9001 on the comments, who says 55-0 to Manchester United. So I'm going to go with that. Marcus Rashford to score 54 of those 55 goals.
Chris Smalling with the other.
Yeah, Chris
Doesn't seem unreasonable. I mean, obviously your 55-0 is possible, but Smalling's injured, so
Dave, listen,
I don't want to make it seem unviable.
Dave,
I don't think that'll
give
happen.
A proper prediction, please, because I've got.
I reckon maybe.
I'll make a video in a minute with our predictions.
I'm going to go 3-0. 3-0 United. I think it's going to be a convincing victory.
Everybody's confident. I'll say 2-0, 2 from Marcus Rashford. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Everybody else, thank you for the comments below. Subscribe to Full Time Devils. Enjoy the video. Let us know what you think the score will be. And everything else, like how do you feel about Smalling and Jones? Just type it down here. Then we'll read it with our eyes. See you next time.